Okay, so we've learned now how to show if a firm is making a profit or a loss using our firm marginal revenue, marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost curves. What we want to talk about now is, well, what does that mean for the market overall when a firm is making a profit, for example? Is that a long-run position, or will something change? And then, of course, do the same thing with the loss. So we want to get a graph of both the firm and the market and just understand how it evolves over time. Okay, so we need to have a market demand curve. We need a market supply curve, which we know determines some market price. And because this is perfect competition, we have that price come over to the firm side, and they're a price taker, right? So that's your marginal revenue curve. Okay. Now, are they making a profit or a loss? Well, I don't know. I don't have enough information here. So we need a couple more things on our firm side to know what's happening. First of all, we would want to have a marginal cost. There we go. And we at least at that point know that that'll be the quantity that is being made by this firm. Still don't know if we're making a profit or loss. What do we need to know? Well, the first thing you'd want to know is the price greater or less than the average total cost? If it's greater than the average total cost, you're making a profit. If it's less, what would be the very next thing you would need to know? Okay, I'm making a loss. Price is less than average total cost. So the next thing I need to know is, well, am I going to produce or not? So as long as my price is greater than average variable cost, then I would stay in. Okay, that was just a little momentary review. Right now we just want to have a picture of a firm making a profit. So I'm going to make sure that this price, this little P star that has been determined by the market, is greater than the average total cost at that quantity. So let's get something in there that looks like that. There's your average total cost. And what we see then is that Q star, we have price greater than average total cost. This is a profit. All right, so all of that's been reviewed. What happens next? What will happen next if this is the starting point? So what we want to bring in here is that because this is perfect competition, because there is an ease of entry and exit both in this market structure, firms who are not currently in the market will see these profits and want some for themselves. So if you go back to when we learned the factors that shift demand and supply, one of the things we learned was number of firms. So as the number of firms increases, so does the market supply. And that's what we're going to see happen here is the people who are not currently in the industry will want to join the industry, and you will get this increase in supply. All right, well, what does that mean? That means that, give me a little hope here, that this new determined market price, okay, I'm having to cheat a little bit, will come across and determine a new market revenue and a new firm supply price that's just coming from on high. And the reason I had to kind of cheat a little bit to get it to go like that is that process of firms entering will continue as the marginal revenue is falling because the number of firms is coming in. It will continue to fall until you get to the minimum of the average total cost curve, the break-even point. So when the price is equal to average total cost, that means we know that profit is zero. Remember, that's economic profit. And that means there's no longer an incentive for new firms to keep entering. You're not going to keep growing your supply curve out this way. All right, so the point of all of this then is in perfect competition where there's no barriers to entry or very low barriers to entry, anytime you have a profit-making situation, that's an incentive for firms to enter, and that entry process will continue until here, until the point where profit is zero. So the other conclusion we can take then is the long-run position for any perfectly competitive firm is in fact $0 profit, $0 economic profit. And that is because anytime they're making a profit, firms will enter until that point. So next we want to look at, well, what happens if a firm is making a loss? What if the price is so low you're making a loss? What does that look like? How does the firm evolve from a loss. All right, so we saw then from a profit situation, the market, is going to evolve to the point where the market price will be that price, where for the typical firm, it's at the break-even price equals average total cost. So now we want to say, okay, well, what does it look like if the typical firm is making a loss? What do you think that might look like? All right, so picking up then with a firm, if the picture on the right side is a typical firm, like we had the market on the left-hand side, then what is going on here? We see our market demand and supply determining a market price, which comes down from on high for these price-taking perfect competitive firms, giving us the feeling that we can sell as many units as we want at this marginal revenue equals price equals firm demand curve. What determines our quantity that we are going to sell is MR equals MC. That would be our profit maximizing or loss minimizing quantity for a firm. So that's step one, MR equals MC. Step two, am I making a profit or a loss? So I take Q star up to my average total cost. Average total cost is greater than price. I'm losing on average that amount. So yes, this is a loss. I have this little rectangular area as my loss. Next question, if you're making a loss, do I shut down or not? So now I take my MR equals MC quantity point and say, okay, well, what is my cost? What is my average cost when I just look at the variable cost? And so I need to look right there where the Q star and the average variable cost hits. And so what I see then is I am making on each unit I sell a little bit more than it cost me on average as long as I just look at my variable cost. And that tells me that by producing, I'm at least shrinking my loss. I'm losing a little bit less than I would if I shut down and lost all my fixed costs. So I'm covering a little bit of my fixed costs. Okay. So what does that mean now? Let's look at the new stuff for this video. What does that mean for this industry? Well, in the short run, the shutdown point is all about shrinking your loss. But in the long run, you can get out of the industry. And so we can take this information over here and say, okay, in the long run, there is no split between total and variable cost. All there is total cost. So in the long run, they're not going to sit here and make this loss. So as time goes on, some of these firms, and I assume a lot of times that this is a typical firm or this is all the firms are identical, but in reality there's going to be some firms that are in a worse loss situation than others. They're going to vary a little bit. And so those guys who are in the worst situation, those guys who are in a situation where the long run maybe resolves quicker and they can get out of their short run rental contracts, whatever. Eventually you're going to start seeing firms not sit here and make a loss in the long run, and you're going to see them exit. So as those first firms begin to exit, that takes us back over to the market picture. Again, factors that shift supply, number of firms. We'll see now the supply curve shift to the left. Now we're going to see the firms begin to exit. And as they exit, we will get this new supply curve, which will determine a new market price. Wish me luck here. And as this new market price comes along, it will determine a new, okay, well, it's supposed to cross right there, and it's going to determine a new marginal revenue. So what we're going to see then is we're going to be back at a point that we saw before. The long run position is for the price that is coming across from the market to be equal to that minimum of the average total cost, so that your price in the long run will be equal to average total cost, which implies, again, zero profit. Why is that? Because at this point, once you get to this point, there's no incentive for firms to continue to exit because you are, for the firms that are still in the industry, at $0 economic profit. And so you're just as fine in the industry as out. There's no incentive to leave the industry, so those remaining firms will stay. So, long story short, the long run position for perfect competitive firms is to be at a position where the price is equal to average total cost. The long run position for perfect competitive firms is actually $0 economic profit. Do keep in mind that economic profit includes the additional opportunity cost that just straight up accounting profit does not. It includes the opportunity cost of what else could you be doing, what other salary could you be earning if you weren't working here, like if you started your own company. It includes things like the money you invested in this business, what interest could it have earned. So when you look at saying $0 economic profit, it's very likely you have a positive accounting profit, that you're actually, bringing money home. And so what we see then in perfect competition is this tendency towards $0 economic profit. All right, from here, you should probably do a little review on the Refonomics link, the Perfect Competition Graphs Interactive Questions. It'll take you through some of this stuff, some of the other conclusions we can draw about perfect competition, and then from there, we will start in on Monopoly.